Good afternoon, friends. We're here for another installment of On the Porch with Pastor. It's raining out here and it's pleasant, overcast, and we have a good one on deck for you. This one's called Why My Wife Bought Handcuffs. Yeah, I know. Um, you think you know where this is going, but you don't. When I was 23, sorry. When I was 23 years old, I made the best decision of my life. I asked a beautiful, witty woman to be my wife, and she accepted, against the advice of her friends, her family, and a goodly portion of the Western world. On our wedding day, the bridesmaids wore black. For 8 years, I was the model of responsibility. I worked hard. I did. I dried the dishes. I lowered the toilet seat. Then my wife became pregnant. I attended birthing classes and learned to commiserate. When we brought Spencer home, I rose with her to feed him. And when he regurgitated on me, I bore it with good humor. 3 months after his birth, Joan returned to part-time work. On the morning of her departure, she cautioned me to keep a close eye on our son. My feelings were hurt, and I said as much. Please, honey, haven't I proven myself reliable? Thus, I could only think of the pain of the mistrust and how it caused me to forget. I'm going to have to do that again. Thus, I can only think it was the pain of mistrust which caused me to forget my son when I went to the grocery store that afternoon. I was on my way there and turned around to see him. He was missing. I raced home and found him in his crib, and I knew what he was going to say when he learned to talk. So I confessed to Joan myself over a candlelit dinner and a new silver bracelet. Being a Christian woman, Joan forgave me and offered me another chance. And the very next morning, after she handcuffed Spencer to me, she said, Honey, I trust you. Reflection on this experience has taught me two things. First, having children causes irreparable damage to those areas of the brain having to do with memory. And the second, what was the second? Oh yeah, second point is this. We all feel forgotten sometimes. Actually, I learned the second lesson at an early age. My family drove off and forgot me once too. We were on vacation, 5 kids, mom and dad, and stopped to eat at a Stuckey's. I was in the bathroom when they climbed back in the car and headed out. They went 20 miles before discovering they were short a kid. Took a quick vote and decided to come back for me. It was almost a tie, but at the last moment, Mom changed her mind. So sometimes each of us feels forgotten. Saddest line in the Bible is when Christ asked God why he forsook him. If Christ felt left behind, how then can we avoid feeling forgotten and forsaken? Some Bible scholars say that isn't what Jesus meant when he cried from the cross. They say he was quoting the first line of Psalm 22 because to quote the first line was to affirm that psalm's victorious conclusion. I have a great deal of respect for Bible scholars, but they're full of baloney on this one. I think Jesus felt forgotten. Editorial. It can be both. I'm one of those full of baloney scholars who also believes that Jesus was sending a message from the cross by quoting Psalm 22. He knew that they would finish it in their head. Just if I say, Amazing Grace, you can finish it. You know what's coming. So when he hangs there and his words come with much labor and effort, how easy it would be to get a message to them by simply starting one of their most favorite psalms. So I believe he was sending a message, but I also believe he was feeling forsaken and feeling forgotten and alone. It can be both. Continuing now. However, the empty tomb tells us he was remembered. And so are we all, which is what I'm going to tell my son just as soon as I remember where I left him. I think we do all feel forgotten sometimes. And sometimes it's good to think of it in a different light for coping's sake. For example, it doesn't wound us if people that we don't have feelings for neglect us or forget us, does it? Not at all. In fact, it hurts the worst when people we do love and who do love us neglect us and abandon us. I'm an optimist by nature, and the faith of Christ within me always looks for the positive to everything, because I believe there's a positive to everything. The positive in this situation, if you're feeling alone and forsaken, abandoned, neglected, the depth of your pain reflects the glorious heights of your love. If my wife were to neglect me, that would wound me deeply. If she were to abandon me, that would wound me deeply. It would wound me deeply because I love her gloriously. So my ability to love and love deeply is reflected in the pain that I carry when that love is not reciprocated. This is what I think caused Jesus to die of a broken heart. Hanging on that cross, crucified, yeah, but I believe his heart ruptured. I believe there's evidence to bear that out. I believe he died of a broken heart because he loved so passionately and his love was not being reciprocated. I can tell you after 25 plus years as a pastor, that the deepest pain I've ever felt in my role as a pastor was not whenever I was spoken evil of or neglected or abandoned or betrayed by those with whom I had no relations. My heart was most broken when I felt betrayed, abandoned, neglected, and forsaken by those that I loved dearly and called friends. So be encouraged. If you're in that state of feeling alone or broken, you're not alone. Jesus went through it. Fellow Christians have gone through it. And it's just a testimony that you're learning to love like Jesus loves. And friends, you should never be sorry for that. So take your lumps, endure hardship as a good soldier, like Paul wrote to young Timothy, and know that there is a power far greater than any on this earth who's ultimately keeping score, and the time of his reckoning is soon at hand. So keep your eyes to the skies.